Welcome to Food and Facilities, an online show for West Coast Industrial Solutions magazine. Our goal is to cultivate knowledge to feed the world by focusing our quarterly trade issues on safety, compliance, and innovation within manufacturing, agriculture, food processing, and food and beverage industries. This episode, we will be discussing bridging the skills and gender gap in trades with Demi Clark of She Built This City, barriers to entering the food industry and how food systems can adapt to the pandemic with Brian Chow of Chow Time, and how safety leadership can create programs to ensure businesses open safely with James Berretti of Berretti Inc. Welcome to Food and Facilities. I'm your host, Tara Sweeney, the Marketing Director for West Coast Industrial Solutions magazine. And please make sure to subscribe at WCISmag.com/subscribe for more content and amazing professionals like you will be meeting today. Make sure to advertise with us. You can reach out to me at my email at Tara, T-A-R-A, at WCISmag.com, or visit us online at WCISmag.com/advertise and be represented at over 20 trade shows annually with a distribution of 10,000 plus, and reach out to people and professionals in manufacturing, food processing, food and beverage, and agriculture. So we surveyed all of you on our social media channels, and we wanted to know what new name you wanted to give us. We had food and facilities at 21.1%, facilities and food at 10.5%, and then the second place was cultivate at 26.3%, and the winning name is planting to processing at 42.1%. You can vote on West Coast Industrial Solutions magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook, and at WCIS Mag on Instagram and Twitter. Here are the new logos that we are proposing that you vote on. Make sure to visit us on all of our social media channels to multiply your vote and let us know which one you prefer for our logo. My first guest today is Demi Clark. She's a Chief Spark Igniter, social venture founder, and speaker, and she founded She Built This City. And I will be bringing Demi on for a Zoom call to discuss She Built This City. Hi, Demi.
Hi there.
How are you today?
Good. I am. It's about 2:00 Eastern time. I'm in Charlotte, and I'm sweating my face off inside our Airstream. So you can see this is our mobile tool lab. So I'm sorry if it's a little wonky on the. It sounds like I'm in a tin can because I am.
That's one of your newer projects that you've been working on with the social distancing protocols.
Correct. So much like so many companies, right? Nonprofits are the same. We've had to adapt and really pivot behaviors and programming with kids out of school and kids not doing camps. And we figured out back in April, when we didn't know what we were going to do. We were a brand new nonprofit, had some good significant funding, and I had always had this idea. And so again, like a lot of companies out there, especially in manufacturing, having to figure it out. Those kind of side burner or back burner projects suddenly become front burner because we have time to figure it out and make some quick adaptations that could be disruption. So we were able to get it funded and make some pivots with our primary sponsor, which is Lowe's Home Improvement, and they were all for it. So yeah, we have spent the last 30 days. It's getting mural painted now, so I'll take you all outside at the end of this by a muralist here in Charlotte and some volunteers from the National Association of Women in Construction. So it's just been one of those barn raisings from the community. So we've had a lot of different entities helping us and organizations helping us and volunteering to get it up to snuff. So it'll be out on the road in July.
That's amazing. For people watching today that didn't read the article on She Built the City, can you give a little background about what She Built the City is about?
For sure. Yeah, I jumped right in on that one. So I have been in construction and manufacturing for the better part of my entire career, which is around 22 years now. And I was many times the only woman in the room, especially on the construction side. I was in residential construction before I jumped silos into the manufacturing side that supplied construction and residential home builders. It was great. I had male bosses who were phenomenal, so I don't want it to look like there was not allyship. It just was not the percentages that we wanted to see. So right now we're hovering in between 8 to 9% women in construction, and even less of a diverse profile from there. So it's primarily white females or identify as white. So diversity is needed, and gender classifications are needed that are alternative to men. So I just felt like I had a place in that somewhere. I love my industries and the people that I worked around, but we need the delta to change. So I started She Built the City after a sabbatical at Yale for a year. I got pushed to do it. The ethos there is definitely so what, now what? And I had a lot of my male classmates and counterparts saying, why aren't you doing this? And it was great because it really kind of kicked me in the seat to actually act on it. I used to think it was me being in the seat, but I could only impact about 10 women a year and getting them into leadership positions. So January, really, we kicked off, really December of this past year, but January, we really got a lot of momentum and started, and that was our programming. So Builder Girls Club, Explorer Girls Club for the foundational hammer and drill skills, and really introducing them into construction concepts and being outside and into the workshops, as well as the future proof of the trades, which is 3D printing, drone inspection technology, HoloLens technology, because by the time they're in the workforce, between 9 and 14-year-olds, they're definitely going to have that as part of their future. And we need to be training them on it now, because it is it's a little sexier than a hammer sometimes, because that's the world they live in. It's a very digital world for kids. And then we also have women at work trade circles, so it's more of the workforce development side for women. So we're hoping to affect 50% in construction at least by 2030.
It's a lot of hard work in a short period of time. And then the Explorer girls and the Builder girls are as young as 9, right?
It is, and the crazy part is another adaptation we've had thanks to Lowe's is we were doing camps and one-day workshops for the Explorer Girls population, and now it's pivoted kind of to all children with virtual shop class. So, what's been an opportunity while we've been going through COVID and everyone being at home is to really, like so many nonprofits and like so many other companies who have been hip to the vibe of ear to the ground of what the curriculum is needed or the content that's needed that's been asking for, we've been able to bring it to as young as 5-year-olds with their parents in virtual shop class. So just introducing those, we call them 1-minute clinics, so we can introduce them to hammering skills, we can introduce them to PPE, we can introduce them to how to appropriately use a drill, and it's not so intimidating. And we're all digital learners, so I say it's the tasty.com way of learning, those tasty.com videos for how to eat and how to make your food, and it takes 30 seconds on the little tutorial, but then it takes us 30 minutes. But that's how we like to learn, it's very quickly. So we're really learning. We've actually taken the first 4 episodes of Virtual Shop class were around 30 minutes, and we've learned based on the demographics that are watching, can we condense it into 10-minute shows and then have a lot of those 1-minute clinics on. We can watch how to do specific techniques with the kids offline, and that's been the best feedback, is when moms and dads will pull me aside, because it's not just the moms, and say, hey, I don't even know how to use a power drill. So can you just give me a 1-minute clinic on that? I want to hang my drapes, for one, and then for 2, I want to do it with my kids. So we've learned a lot in the last couple of months.
Amazing. And then you also kind of fill in the skills gap that has been modernly an issue by filling in the gender gap that has historically been an issue in all of these industries. And you're also addressing it in a different way than a lot of the organizations that have already been working on it, where they target a lot of high school students. You're meeting it at the young age and as an adult already in the industry.
Right. Yeah. And, and I also need to remember that I'm also talking to a lot of people in manufacturing on this call. So I think that the numbers are better. It's a little more close to STEM numbers, where I think you're like 24-25% females in manufacturing, which is great. So rising tides lift all ships, right? But still some delta and some opportunity there. And yes, to your direct answer, or your direct question of the populations we serve, this is the for-profit in me. I'm a for-profit girl. I probably always will be. And this is just a legacy for me to feel like I've done something for an industry that I love, is that the opportunity is huge, and you've got to go with the blue ocean strategy. So go where people aren't. And I found that very quickly in nonprofits. I certainly don't want to act like a know-it-all. I'm learning every day as to the politics and bureaucracies of nonprofit world. But what we can teach a lot of times is the fact that you've got to look where there's no other real true competitors for grant money, for relationships and partnerships. And we will always be that category for She Built the City, is to say, okay, where can we can have that kind of collaboration, where if there's someone close to say doing the same thing, we can either gang up on it, and then we'll pivot a little bit on our programming to the 3D printing, or we'll pivot and just do a pick and roll to a little bit different, to where we still can be in that blue ocean. And I really found that with opportunity. So let's talk more impact rather than me sounding for profit like I'm trying to go get money. Is the middle school was really left behind. So a lot of the CTE programs, or careers in technical education, engineering programs, et cetera, are all focused on high school, whereas the middle school is just a huge, vast, really wasteland of nothing. I think 14% overall is a statistic from Generation T, which is one of our partners of 80 different organizations who have committed and taken a pledge to get more diversity in the trades. 14% of our secondary schools in America actually have CTE programs. And primarily, I think about 12% of that is at the high school level. So we saw Builder Girls Club, which is middle school, so 12 to 14-year-old girls, as a huge opportunity. It is for boys too, but we're just more, the impact level and the passion level for us is to change that 9% as well. So, it starts as young as 5 to get these kids in a workshop. We're finding that too. Again, they're digital kids, and that's a great thing. They're just leaps and bounds beyond learning capacities that me as a kid of the 80s, and even in the kids of the 90s and early 2000s. However, we've dropped that real hands-on skill. And so we want to bring that back and marry the two together. And then in the middle school, we want to support those kids so that, for She Built the City specifically, we're looking for them by 8th grade to be able to test out and say in that individual graduation plan that they start doing in 8th grade before high school, I am interested in the trades, or I would like to go into a STEM direction, rather than choosing straight 4-year college degree. They can also be comfortable, and we're trying to destigmatize that undecided, because they're not giving up by saying undecided. They truly are undecided.
Yeah, it's hard to choose your trade that you want to go into when you're grown up, when you're still trying to figure out who you are. So it's
right. Well, and I have an 8th grader now, and minus the COVID stuff too, of not being in school. She had just done her individual graduation plan, and funny story, she had to tell me to kind of like, Mom, don't get on a soapbox here, please, like simmer down, because it's the meeting with the guidance counselor, and it's the 2 parents, or if it's a single parent situation, it's a single parent, and they sit down and go over the schedule, and it definitely still is a push to say 4-year college degree. And so I had to do the timeout and say, she really is undecided, and got a bit of a talking to of, if you don't put 4-year college degree, that's really going to leave you out of all this communication and this, that, and the other. So we're just so pre-programmed so early on to say that it's a perceived failure if they don't say 4-year college degree, to which we've proven time and again, and especially in COVID life, that our trades are still working. Again, still kind of sticking to the trade, even in the manufacturing side, as many of these companies know that are part of this group. You've got forklift, you've got distribution, you've got gangbusters in the manufacturing side of shipping and receiving and logistics right now. So production has not stopped. We're hiring like crazy, and those are all, typically unheard of in the college degree format. But now we're seeing so many of these furloughed workers coming over into construction and manufacturing. So I think it's a positive. And again, it's an opportunity for us to destigmatize some of these roles. I'll stick to the forklift because it's very top of mind for us right now. We're talking about doing seats with United Rentals in their United Academy for forklift, and also OSHA 10, because forklift is so sought out right now. It's upwards of $30 an hour, full benefits, signing bonuses for companies. And again, I'm sure many of the people on this call who have distribution centers, et cetera, are in that same boat saying, yep, we just hired 10 last week. And there's only so many places you can find them. You need to train them. And so we're doing workforce development partnerships really with this Airstream, where we can go park. People can take in our little learning zone a 4-hour class on forklift, test out, and then walk into a Lowe's, a Shipt, and the Instacart and get that job immediately and have family wages and get benefits that same day. So there's a lot of opportunity that unfortunately nobody wants a pandemic, and no one wants, kind of the cultural issues that we're having right now that are really just kind of stymieing our country as we have conversations that we need to have. But at the same time, we can keep people working. So it's a good opportunity for us to start these conversations.
Definitely. And can you give us a little more information about the Airstream that you're sitting in right now?
Yeah, minus the fact that there's no AC and it's like 95 degrees and high. I'm like, I can see myself sweating on camera. We're not hooked up with the generator today. So right now we're gutting it. So you don't see much in it. So I'll not make everybody sick, but that will be the learning zone behind me. So this is just tool storage in here. So I will be doing that next weekend. We're building a banquette. We're also building, again, the walls you see behind me and in front of me will be like what you see in a garage. So more like a craftsman garage storage area, or cobalt, with the garage cabinets and where we can hang all of our mobile tool sets. But really, this is a mobile tool lab that has not only a 3D printer and some of that future proofing of the trades I was talking about earlier, as well as some laptops. We'll have a wireless puck in here so we can do some of that training for the workforce development seats, but then also train in some of these communities where we want to teach them 3D printing to teach men and women to fish, quite frankly. We're doing these partnerships with Charlotte, the community associations right now for July to say, what is the program you'd like to see? Is it more kids? Is it the families? Do we need to bring things like wanting to build community gardens where we can do the build? We have all of the tools inside this tool lab as well as the workstation. So we'll have mobile workstations that we can pop out of here. The programming doesn't happen inside the Airstream. We will be parking at parking lots. We'll be parking at community centers, in at-risk areas, in not at-risk areas, and providing services that basically teach the community a skill or teach girls how to use foundational hammer and drill skills and do a project. So it's just opened up, the mobility has opened us up to so many opportunities in our programming that we have to have this weekly conversation of like, how do we like bring it back down to earth? There's just so many places we can go in Charlotte alone. And if we're scaling, in any city, really, if you've got mobility like this mobile tool lab gives us.
So if some of our viewers might want to contribute, or if they want to attend one of your virtual classes, how would they get in contact with you?
Thank you for that. You can find us online and on all social media. So we are www.shebuiltthiscity.org. Feel free to sing the songs, because it's she, not the we, if you're a kid of the 80s, but everybody starts singing the songs, which is great because it's a good memory point for me. And then same thing on Facebook, where She Built the City on Facebook. We're very active on Instagram, which is at she.built.this.city, because that was taken. We're also on LinkedIn, so a lot more of our workforce development programming on LinkedIn and some of our statistics and active change. And of course, we're always looking. There's a partner page on our website where corporations, which we have several corporations that we're working with on in-kind donations, tools, different supplies that they are partnering with us on, either for the girls or for ourselves. We have just had a memorial scholarship from Timberland from an employee who had passed away. So in her memory, they had deemed a scholarship for us. So we do scholarship programming as well with corporations and individual trusts. And then we're always looking for that wonderful unicorn style partnership of coming to other cities and or bringing to life an employee engagement for a corporation. And individual donors we take every day. So every penny counts, especially as we're outfitting Airstreams really in air programming up and running. So we appreciate it, or even just a conversation to say, how can we make change in our own industry or in our own company? I have those conversations a lot, even with allyship. So if we can be advisors or if we can be partners, we're happy.
Thank you for joining me today, Demi, and I'll make sure to stay in touch and try to promote the good fight.
Thank you. Thanks for all you do, and have a great weekend.
You too. Bye. One of our sponsors is Valley Will Call. They do industrial pickup and delivery service. It is a Darren Gibbs industrial company. They're serving the greater Fresno area. You can contact them at contact@valleywillcall.com or 559-312-4544, or call Darren Gibbs directly at 559-351-3280 or contact@darrengibbs.com. And another one of our sponsors is Protect Coatings Incorporated. They will do epoxy laminate flooring for food, industrial, all sorts of conditions and industries. There's an example of a before the flooring was installed and after. As you can see, it's antimicrobial and anti-slip and can be done in different colors to match your branding. Call them today at area code 559-323-8147. And visit us virtually. We are going to be attending the Central Valley Facilities Expo. It will be July 15th and 16th. It's going to be a virtual event instead of being held in Modesto this year. Visit us virtually and attend at www.facilitiesexpo.com. They have virtual exhibits, on-demand conferences, and contests and offers that you can participate in. My next guest is Brian Chow of Chow Time. He's a food systems analyst, a fungal fanatic, and a food scientist. You can visit him at chow-time.com. Hi, Brian. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining. And now you want to approach the difficulties and barriers to entering the food industry and give a little background on yourself and Chow Time.
Certainly, yeah. So Chow Time started back in, it formally started back in 2017. Back in around 2011, that's when the name, the concept, and the idea came about, discussing this with college friends. So I studied food science over at UC Davis, and then circa 2017 to 2019, I did a thesis, master's thesis, I would say, on food systems and how my work in food consulting has a lot of different barriers of entry for a lot of the entrepreneurs that I've been working with. About 80% of the entrepreneurs that I've been working with are small, medium businesses. And, given the recent events, both with COVID and Black Lives Matter, you can definitely take a look into the issues, the food system issues that are involved regarding with communities that have been impacted with a lack of access to good food, nutritious food, I would say.
That is unfortunately very true. And you wanted to give a little background on how to enter into the industry and what companies can do?
Yeah, certainly. So there's a lot. We can sit here all day and talk about it. So I'm going to try to condense it as much as possible. So what I hope to do within the industry is that with Chow Time, it really started with me out of a job and struggling to try to figure out with my particular skill set, having worked in the food industry, whether it's quality assurance, food safety, a little bit of supply chain, looking into my resources, research and development, and operations. How do I take all of those skill sets and be able to impart that in the industry and contribute in some meaningful manner? And so the consulting practice just started off in that particular manner. I was on LinkedIn, and there's a significant amount of people who happened just to reach out to me to be able to ask about how do they participate in the food space? How do they enter as entrepreneurs themselves? What are the difficulties in obtaining different types of food items? What are the means of price strategy? How do you get that particular food to be food safe, to be more shelf stable, to be able to move from, say, California over to New York? So all those different questions, and I didn't really have all the answers for them, but I definitely learned along the way, were some things that I tried to tackle. So for example, a number of my clients, they were looking into shelf life extension of, say, maybe a granola bar or of a baked good. And so we have to take a look into things like water activity, And water activity essentially is the amount of water available for microbial growth. So to be able to talk about that in layman's terms, because not everybody is a food scientist or have the jargon necessary to be able to discuss about shelf life, uh, they'd be able to start to understand and have the access to the knowledge so that they can make informed decisions, so that when they go and talk to a third party microbiology lab, they'd be able to understand what is necessary for them to further discussion to even buyers and things of that nature. And it's not simply just, I want to increase shelf life. Well, how do you want to increase shelf life? What exactly are you looking for? Is it a mold problem, a yeast problem, an oxidation problem? All of these different complexities aren't really discussed in full detail. So it's that access to knowledge. And one thing I want to really point out, if I can, give a shout out, would be to increase support. And there are community centers, such as Alchemist Community Development Center in the Sacramento area, that just recently had their second cohort of food entrepreneurs. This was last Saturday, graduate. They did an online type of graduation given the concerns with COVID, but it's really important to talk about these communities and integrate ourselves with these community centers to be able to uplift a lot of different people.
Definitely. Thank you for giving a shout out. And if you have anybody else you want to bring in, you can too. So, how can ones that are already in the food industry respond to the pandemic that we're currently in?
Right. Well, my view is very, very interesting and very unique just because I have to take a look at the food system in of itself. I'd say a few weeks ago, I was at a slow money online webinar. And what I recently learned was that in Monterey County, the county itself, there are more houseless and hungry people than in San Francisco and San Jose combined. These are two big cities in California, but they don't get much coverage by the press. And basically, they don't have the food access, which is quite odd because that particular area has a lot of growth for agriculture. They're connected to the coastline, so they have a lot of seafood access as well. So how is it that this entire county has so many houseless and hungry families that do not have the access to the food? The Monterey County Food Bank has to compete against larger corporations for food. What typically would be, say, a 1 to 2 week lead time can expand over to a month worth of lead time. And so the supply chain and the movements of food, the logistics of food, it should be prioritized. But it seems to be that with the constraints happening with COVID and with the food system that has been implemented, we lack the wherewithal, the knowledge of how to re-examine the food system and reconfigure it in such a way that more people can have the access to food. And it's so surprising that we talk more about manufacturing. And now manufacturing has a lot of issues. Don't get me wrong, I've dealt with a lot of it myself as a food consultant. But the thing is, we should also have an emphasis on supply chain. We should have an emphasis on the logistics so that more people can have access to food. We should be able to invest more in distribution because even then, like the second week of shelter in place, I was at a different webinar by Naturally Boulder, Colorado. And what they were talking about is the second week of shelter in place. UNFI and KeHE, which are food distributors, massive food distributors, they had to drop 350,000 brands off their catalog. Where are these brands going to now distribute their food? They don't have a distributor anymore. And it was not only because it was happening with COVID, but because we didn't emphasize distribution in of itself. We've positioned and strained two large food distributors to a point where they were not able to manage at least 350,000 brands. Now that was the second week of shelter in place. Imagine what's happened, a couple months after that. They've probably continued to drop brands. It's a strained system that has been implemented, and now it's even more strained. And so how do we help all these different brands essentially move product, because that's going to contribute to food waste, and that goes back to the issue of food access. So we definitely need to take a look into the the supply chain. We definitely need to take a look into the access of food.
Definitely. I know a lot of companies are donating to food banks and to No Kid Hungry right now because of the issue with access. What are some ways that you can give companies to actively work to fixing this issue?
Definitely. I've been talking to and advising a particular company called Testimonial. It's originally the concept is an AI-powered app that connects food brands to people who have dietary restrictions and dietary needs, and it's owned by um, a Thai-owned woman, a mother, that has one of her children has an allergen to I believe egg whites, so no tiramisu or things of that nature. And her husband, who's French, has another dietary restriction, not necessarily an allergen, but a dietary restriction himself. So he can't necessarily eat bread. And as a Frenchman, they love their bread, so it's going to be a very hard lifestyle to live. And that entire concept of evaluating how people have been impacted, naturally speaking, and being able to not be able to access that particular food because you're looking at grocery stores who are able to stock on a daily basis, but with 6 feet apart, with that social distancing and with timelines where there's only finite amount of inventory, things can run out of space. So you don't necessarily have the time to go up and down the aisles and say, well, is this something I could eat? So what they try to do is to streamline that process through an app and an e-commerce platform and be able to say, fill in your information if you want to participate about your dietary restriction and dietary need. And we've onboarded a lot of these different brands locally and starting with the San Francisco Bay Area so that we can connect and drop ship to you in bulk or small taster boxes as a preview or purview to what you can expect. We've done the screening with the nutritionist that has screened through the dietary needs. We have somebody like me who is a food scientist in there that's advising for the food systems analysis so that we have a better distribution and that we have partners that are willing to work through the system on a localized level so that we are able to start from a small level and then start expanding outwards from there.
It is unfortunate that a lot of companies aren't adapting appropriately, and it's making it harder for people that are already impacted by the conditions that we're currently under. Is there anything else you would like to share before we part ways today?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I want to really focus more on the thoughts that I've been really thinking about in terms of communities, especially Black communities that have been hardest hit by the pandemic. It's by design in the systems that we have implemented. And so what we really need to do is with the causes or the consequences of what has happened with COVID-19 is that it highlights more of these issues of food access and things of that nature. And we really need to take a step back and sit and actively listen, support wherever we can, but allow for that learning process and really challenge the food system and its thinking so that we can come up with new ways for us to be able to design a better system so that we're able to lower the barriers of entry and say, oh, these are the issues that have always happened. So how can we actually address it properly? Instead of focusing on strictly one particular manner, like the manufacturing, we need to look at a holistic level. And that starts with the community. What does the community want? What does the community need? And then from there, how do we develop systems such as the distribution models that I've been talking about with say, Testimonial, so that more people can have access and we actually truly address these larger issues.
And if anybody would like to contact you to get assistance and having you consult them on how to do these things, how would they get a hold of you?
Definitely, yeah. So you can definitely look at chow-time.com. You can definitely take a look at the different projects that I've been working on and with. And if you want to reach directly, there's Brian, BRIAN, at chau, CHAU, time, TIME.com.
Thank you for joining me today, Brian, and I hope you have a good day.
Likewise. Thank you.
And one of our sponsors is Safe Food Alliance. They are here in Kingsburg, California. They have a full service of food safety services suites for larger corporations. They have in-house, small group, or online trainings. They have Safe Food California, one of the largest food safety conferences in California. And then they also have a laboratory and research to back them. If you want to reach out, you can check them out at safefoodalliance.com or visit them at their food safety center in Kingsburg. And another one of our sponsors is Fine Print Plus. If you are needing your social distancing floor decals, they have 11-inch diameter ones for smooth floors, concrete, tile, laminate, hardwood, low pile carpet tiles, anything that you need, and we can have them design you a company-specific one. Reach out to them at area code 559-237-4747. Email them at graphics@fineprintplus.com or visit them online at fineprintplus.com/quote. My next guest is James Berretti. He's a safety, health, and environmental services consultant. You can visit him at berrettiinc.com or email him at james@berrettiinc.com. Welcome, James.
Good morning, Tara. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you, for a Saturday morning. Not too bad out here in the Valley. So it was very interesting listening to your previous guests. Very good work that Brian is talking about doing and helping out the community, especially at times like this.
So let's give our viewers a little bit of background of you and your company.
Sure, sounds good. If you're okay, I'll share a PowerPoint that I'd prepared for this that gives a little bit of that, some visuals, but we can also talk about what safety does with regard to building confidence for employees and customers alike for our businesses as they start to reopen, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. And here we go. But Berretti Inc. actually is based out of Visalia, California. And what we do is actually work with a number of customers and clients in the industrial and food preparation, processing space with helping them out. So we're really all about designing and developing and integrating safety systems and risk control, and we really try to make sure that we make the safety process works within the business itself. So as you can see on the screen, this is a little bit about what we do. You can see it's only, and I say a little bit, but we've worked in Visalia and out of Visalia since 2003, and actually serve most of our clients in California, Central Valley, North, and South. But some of our clients, as you can imagine, have more of a global footprint, and so we assist them around the United States, Canada, Mexico, and work with partners in Asia and Europe to help them out. So, but yeah, that's kind of a little bit about what we do. And this morning, Tara, I just kind of wanted to share with the listeners and the people who are tuning in on this this morning that really leadership, especially at a time like this, as we're coming out of the COVID situation, of course, the unrest that's going on as well, which is definitely understandable given the events that have occurred over the last couple of weeks. And we know this has been something which has been underlying. I kind of do a Friday quote and put that up yesterday as well. But really what we're talking about here is thinking about MMP, which is really measuring to set direction, modeling to inspire others, and processing in place to map out success. At a time like this is where our small businesses, our medium-sized businesses in the Valley are really looking for guidance and what do we really do? What will help in this regard? So I prepared a graphic here that I thought might be very helpful, that when you're looking at reopening, you really want to look at preparing the spaces and really preparing your employees for what they're going to face, because the workplace is now a different place. You need to know who to communicate with and when you should do that. When should customers expect a reopening? What can they expect upon a reopening? How do you want them to interact with your employees to keep themselves safe as well as the employees themselves? And then access control, meaning, we may only use one entry in and out of our structures if we're going in and out of structures. How do we do that in a safe and good paced manner itself? And then what do we do about making sure that we reduce our touch points? How do we do our distancing, which we really like to call more along the lines of 6 feet together? So with that kind of stuff, what we're really trying to do is build confidence into safety here so that you build sustainability with our organizations. So we've been doing an awful lot of work with this. In fact, a lot of our customers were reaching out to us in mid-April, asking us how do we help or what can we do. We were going out onto sites with them and looking at redesigning their workplaces and kind of seeing what we can do to help out both for the employees, the business, and being able to meet and exceed some of the things that county health departments had put into place. So from there, there are some things you definitely need to think of as a business owner. The keys of performing a risk analysis, that really is what determines the preventative measures that you take for being able to reopen with confidence. Training people, obviously, and what do you implement with regard to control measures, disinfecting, investigating to make sure that any incidents that might be suspected or confirmed, how you can improve going forward, or making sure that people are able to do that. And communicate, of course, from a safety standpoint. And real quick, just to kind of show you, if you're looking at people and exposure and risk, you're looking at proximity, surfaces, external interactions. If you're looking at the place itself, what are the layouts, the airflow? Don't forget about that. If you have to do travel, really consider, do you really need to do it? And think about who can really, work from home, who needs to be there at work, and what's the process we do, what are the procedures. So that kind of gives you a brief idea of some of the things that we've been facing, Tara.
Thank you for sharing. And if someone wants to reach out to you and have you help them work on their procedures and their safety standards, how can they reach you?
Yep, that's us right there that you see on the screen. Definitely, it's a way we can get going with that. I'm going to close that back out and stop sharing the screen because, I know certainly people who are tuning in to Central Valley Talk really like to see and talk to the individuals who are interacting with you. So I just thought that might be a nice little bit of an introduction as we continue our conversation here this morning.
And I know you've been working with a lot of clients virtually too because of the COVID-19 situation. And
Correct.
You've been.
Correct.
Is it even more work than usual because of COVID-19?
Funny enough, it has been. I would say probably the first 2 weeks of the stay-at-home order, everybody was kind of assessing what we really were looking at. Several of our clients, as you know, in the food industry are very much engaged in the essential part of business itself. And essentially, they were asking us if we could help them out. Now, what was interesting was we actually did some live streaming and looking at some situations, so we didn't have to worry about bringing anything in. And that was great. We didn't expose anybody there. That then expanded into asking us to come onto site because we already have all the safety gear we need to make sure everybody remains safe from the people we've been social distancing with, plus continuing to keep that safety there. And it's been interesting. There's been a lot of innovation with a number of our clients that initially thought they might, under restrictions, be able to return back to about 65% of their work level. And now some are actually predicting even over 100% because of some of the changes they've made in their workstations, the workflow, and in looking at the output with it. very innovative ideas. Some people have come up with these distancing curtains. So therefore, if any one person should be exposed or have a confirmed COVID case, we're not losing the entire workforce. We're only ending up quarantining a few people, and the company itself can continue to go. A lot of our clients too have been doing community outreach with regard to providing meals for folks. They've been making sure that they've been set up with things like this. This is an example of one of our clients asking us if we could use anything, and we have found that using headsets has been very helpful with communication, and even doing a lot of interactive training online as opposed to being in person. So it's been wonderful from that standpoint.
Are there any favorite projects that you've had so far?
Oh, yes. I would say probably, I would have to say it's been around the training aspect, where some of the things that we've done, as an example, some people wanted to really focus on ergonomics, or they wanted to focus on heat illness, or they wanted to focus on, prevention, that kind of thing. Or I'd say probably the favored one has been looking at electrical safety and 7DE, which those of the folks who are in facilities and maintenance and electrical, they understand what that safety criteria is. And so what we had done when we were presenting this information and training people in person, we have found actually it's a lot more fun online. We've been able to actually have more interactive classes, and people have just been thrilled with that kind of thing. So it's taught us some lessons of how we can do a better job from a virtual standpoint. And we're able to share that with our clients so they can be able to do that with their workforce, especially since some of them are looking at possibly keeping their office workers at home all the way through the end of the year. This also helps out with people who typically will have a lot of travel. Now they're able to share some lessons learned and be able to improve what they're able to do without having to physically be there in person, and still be able to keep that connection with customers, which I think is vitally important for businesses to survive.
Definitely. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we end our time today?
Nope, just if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. We have a lot of free information, not a problem at all. But certainly if there's anything we can do to support you with your organization, the good work that you're doing, please let us know as well. So I look forward to a good, long relationship with you and the company and the organization that you represent.
Thank you, James. Have a good day.
Thank you, Tara. You too.
Bye. And I wanted to have a moment of silence in solidarity for our African American and Black community. And I will be quiet for at least a minute now.